Here's a big idea. You can speak English better than a native speaker. It's a bold statement, and I know what you're thinking. That's impossible! It's really frustrating when you have complex thoughts and ideas in your head, but your English skills make you feel like a child without the tools to be able to express yourself clearly. You're trying to get fluent and be able to say what you want to say like you can in your own language. You're pretty smart in your own language. Here's your problem. You're playing the A1 to C2 game. Beginner, intermediate, advanced, native. Now I know you're desperate to perfect the rules of this game, but it's the wrong game. In today's video, I'll show you the rules of the game that you should be playing, and I'll get you speaking English better than a native in no time. And I'll show you how to do this on your own. So what are the ingredients for speaking good English? If you get tested on something like the IELTS, they'll ask you a question like, tell me about a book you've read recently. Oh, I haven't read a book since school. And they're looking for 4 ingredients. Coherence, that's your potato, some fancy words, a banana, some fancy grammar, there's the aubergine, and pronunciation, that can be the onion. So you add them all in, you mix it all up, and you try to give them what they want. And notwithstanding a phenomenal reading experience, if the exquisite cover design hadn't sparked my initial interest, I wouldn't have had. You'll probably struggle through and eventually get your C2 certificate. But your soup tastes like shit. There's too much of some ingredients in the wrong context, and some ingredients missing altogether. There's no salt in the soup. Okay, I don't want to overstretch the analogy. And don't get me wrong, English tests like IELTS and TOEFL are pretty good at measuring your technical English ability. But we've talked about fancy words and grammar on this channel a lot. Absolutely spectacular, darling. Normal words and phrases are much more common. That's very nice. Good. Thank you. You need to think about why you're speaking English. Just to pass a test? And even if you are taking an English test, what we're about to discover will blow the examiner away. Or to communicate something more important. Learning English gives you better opportunities in life and love. Education, career, business, travel. American business guru and killer content creator Alex Hormozi says that the #1 money-making rule if you weren't born in the US is to learn English. Obviously not enough on its own and perhaps a bit simplistic, but it's a good place to start. Why does this rule work? Well, good things happen when you can communicate in a way that makes things happen. The game you should be playing is killer communication. Some of the ingredients are the same as your A1 to C2 English. You still need accuracy in your grammar and a range of vocabulary and good pronunciation. But English proficiency is just one element, and it assumes that people are listening to you. In the real world, people will ignore you, interrupt you, talk over you, and disrespect you. We need to make our communication more confident, assertive, and captivating. Another of my favorite creators is Vin Jiang. He's an expert in using your voice as an instrument of communication. He is a master communicator, and interestingly, English isn't his first language, but his third language, although you wouldn't know it to listen to him. Vin tells us about some other ingredients like volume, rate of speech, tone, pauses, so that when you speak, people listen. So whether you know it or not, this is the game we're all playing. And here's your advantage. Most native speakers don't know they're playing a game at all. They don't think about this type of thing. If you can learn how to become an effective communicator, you have an advantage over most native speakers who suffer from the same insecurities and anxieties about speaking as you. I've picked 3 tips from Vin that will provide massive value for advanced English learners. Pitch, pace and pauses, and the assertive drop. And we've got a couple of exercises to practice them. Pitch. Many people, natives and learners, suffer from monotone. If I speak like this and I don't vary the pitch of my speech, it becomes very boring for listeners and you turn off. If I vary my pitch, it instantly becomes more engaging. Most people play here. We need to explore here. and here. Use the siren exercise. Here's a text, read it like this. In the year 1878, I took my degree of Doctor of Medicine of the University of London and proceeded to Netley to go through the course prescribed for surgeons in the army. Having completed my studies there, I was duly attached to the 5th Northumberland Fusiliers as assistant surgeon. One night, just as I was beginning to think that I had lost the chance to make any headway in my new life, there was a knock on my door. Now, obviously, you don't want to talk like that, but it starts to exercise parts of your voice that you never knew you had. Next tip, pace and pauses. Talking too fast or too slow is a problem. In fact, even talking at the correct pace is a problem because there's no such thing as the correct pace. Even a good pace, after a while, will get boring. What we need is variety and pauses. We'll use the same text and let's experiment with pace and pauses. One night, just as I was beginning to think that I had lost the chance to make any headway in my new life, there was a knock on my door. I opened it to find a tall, thin man with sharp, piercing eyes and a cold, calculating demeanour. "Excuse me, I am Dr. Watson," I said, stepping back slightly in surprise. "Holmes," he replied, his voice cool but firm. "Sherlock Holmes." See how it becomes more captivating, and the pauses are really effective in emphasizing particular ideas. Next, we have the assertive drop. This is a great way to sound more assertive and remove nervousness from your speech. It's an intonation trick. If you raise your intonation towards the end of a sentence, it sounds a bit nervous. By dropping the intonation at the end of the phrase, it sounds more decisive. And this works even for questions and requests. When you're first learning English, the textbooks say to indicate a question by raising your intonation. "Cup of tea? Can you help me?" Now, you need to play this according to the situation. The cup of tea is probably not mission critical. Cup of tea is pretty important. But if you need someone to do something for you at work, "Excuse me, would you mind? I need you to do something for me." Subscribe to the channel. It's something I'm working on myself, and in the next video, I'll show you how I'm doing it.